Hey, welcome back to the Myth Impressions YouTube channel. And that is home to Nemesis Gear, Steampunked Out, and of course, Knox Hollow Wand Making Wood Shop, which is where we are at today, making wands again. I have got some amazing new woods for y'all. Or some of them were really gorgeous. Some of them were just pretty nice. I'm a little bit biased, but anyways, we're going to start off with the first wood I've got for you is Tigerwood. And this is a really interesting wood. Apparently, this is really popular for deckings, and it's got a natural rot resistance. And this stuff is it's really dense, and it feels kind of waxy, plasticky almost. I feel like it should be. I should say it's oily, but it doesn't. It's not oily in the same way some of the other woods are when I've tried, to heat it and stuff, and the oil actually just kind of oozes out. This almost feels waxy. But anyways, it's a really pretty wood. It's a little bit difficult to work with. It's one of my least favorites to work at this point. I think I've kind of discovered that, but it actually is one of my favorites as far as the how the wood looks. So and I got really lucky on this. This has some really interesting wavy grain in this piece of wood that I've got on one end, and I put that towards the handle on these. There's always a little bit more wood thickness in the handle, so that really shows off the grain. You can see how it's already got some kind of waviness and stuff to it. And for this first wand, I'm showing the whole process on this, and when I do the other wands, I'll kind of skip to the middle here. As usual, always get it down to the round to start with, and then I get the shaft, the blade work down to about the size of a Sharpie. And once I start getting that done, I do a small section at a time, and then I can switch out to my spigot jaws instead of the spur drive, and that allows me to get the more of the wand inside the jaws, and that way I have a shorter piece of wood that is unsupported. And the reason, if you've watched some of my other videos, I've talked about this before, when you have a really long, skinny piece of wood in there, especially when it's a dense wood that has a lot of strange grain to it, like this Tigerwood especially does this, and even this piece, when I get it all the way up inside the jaws, it's still that wood will flex on the lathe when you put any kind of pressure to it. And what that flexing, it ends up bouncing and chattering. You get a chatter and it wants to catch on the tools. And so having really sharp tools helps, but there's only so much that you can do with that. So I try to get as much of that wand up inside the jaws as I can, so that I don't have to try to use supports and stuff on this. I've got plenty of room to work. So anyways, for the first wand, I'm kind of showing that and explaining that, and then for the other wands, we'll kind of skip through it. So now that I've got that up inside the chuck jaws, I'm going to kind of finish smoothing this up, and we're going to get the handle marked out. And the handles on all my wands are approximately 4 inches. I've got about a 1/2 inch for the pommel, about 2.5 inches ish for the grip, and then another inch for what would be on a sword I would call it the guard, but for a wand it's more of a transitional point. For me, I like to use a transitional point between the handle and the blade. Just I put some more decorative elements and stuff in that, and I do talk about wands in the context of swords or knives or whatever. I do have some stage combat experience, choreographing fights, and so I'm very familiar with the anatomy of swords and stuff. So, and that just makes the most sense for me. And I think about the wands in kind of in that way too. So I do want to do a future video on that, on just some philosophies on wands, wand making, and lore, and even some of the mythology and stuff that the fantasy theory and stuff that I have behind my wand making, not just the practical, like, hey, I'm a maker, but if I was really using like real magic to make wands and stuff, I think that would be a really neat video to do. So that's hopefully coming up in the future. So anyways, we're going to do some shaping on this and kind of skip through and go through this fairly quickly so we can get into some other wands. And as you can see, I'm kind of doing, I like this kind of vase or tulipy floral sort of shape sometimes for the wands. And that's kind of why I decided to go for this first one because I thought it would really show off some of that grain nicely. And so we're going to kind of go into that. And I typically use most the two tools I use the most often on the wands are this spindle roughing gouge. That's what I use to rough it in, get it in the round, and then I remove the most wood with that, and then I'll come in and do the detail work with this little spindle detail gouge. I do sometimes use the skew. I honestly, for doing these little tiny details and stuff, I've kind of found that I use that detail gouge a little bit like a skew in the first place. I do use a parting tool a little bit on these two, not just a whole lot. To put some lines in there for doing the friction burning and to kind of divide some areas and stuff off, but for the most part I stick with the roughing gouge and the spindle detail gouge. And then, of course, we go into the sanding, and I'm just going to go up to, I think I'm going to go up to around a 600 grit to start with. One of the things about this Tigerwood that's really great, because of its density and the type of grain and stuff it has, it sands absolutely beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and get this. I get it up to about a 300 grit or so, and then I'm going to go in and do this friction burn with wire. And one thing, the downside of it, this Tigerwood, is I think because of its oily, waxy nature, it is really hard to get that wire to burn. And this is sped up 400 times. You can see how long I'm sitting on there, pulling on that wire, trying to get it to get enough friction to heat up in order to burn those lines in there. And it's not as bad on the wider areas, but especially that little narrow area right there at the base of the where the blade connects to the guard. It seemed to take forever to get it to heat up. So, but anyways, that is important for to do because I am going to be testing out the ebonizing solution on this. So having the wire friction burns on there, it severs the grains, the surface grains on that outer area, and that helps keep the ebonizing solution or any liquid if you're doing bleaching or anything that's going to keep it from traveling up the grains of the wood past that burn the friction burned area. So, anyways, I'm gonna sand this all the way up to around a 600 grit because of the density of the wood, and because of its natural resistance. The ebonizing solution, because it's a vinegar, it's a water base basically. It's a vinegar solution, iron acetate, and it doesn't penetrate quite as deeply into this. So I want to polish this up kind of high because the grain doesn't raise up quite as much as it does on a more porous wood. I don't want to, because it doesn't penetrate into the wood as deeply. I don't want to have to sand it so roughly. So being able to start with, a 500 grit sandpaper after I raise the grain on this means I take off less of the wood. If I was to go back to like a 300, it'd be really easy to sand out the all the ebonizing solution. You basically would sand all the colored area off. So that's something that you do have to test with some woods. If you're using ebonizing solution, just to kind of get an idea of how it's going to react and stuff like that. So definitely do some testing there. And as you can see, it did actually did ebonize pretty well. I'm going to go in with this now. I think I started back in around a 500, 600 grit and just, lightly sanded this off. One of the great things, about the density of this is because it didn't raise the grain up a lot. I was able to start with a higher grit and I was able to take this all the way up to like a 2000 grit sandpaper and it polished just beautifully and worked really well with just an oil and wax finish. And you'll see the end result here when we get to that. But anyway, so there's a whole bunch of sanding that I've cut out. And then once I get the sanding done, I'm just using this old piece of denim and I'm kind of burnishing that wood up. So we'll kind of get a close up of just how that looks before I get the oil finish on it. And then I'll go and I'll put the taper on the blade off camera, and then I'll get the oil on it here. And you can see this is what the finished one looks like with just an oil finish. Once this cures and dries, then I'll put the wax on it and we'll show you that photo of that. And here is the close up of the finished first Tigerwood wand that I was able to do, and as you can see, there is some color variation there where I did the ebonizing fluid, but you can see the shine on this, and this is just an oil and wax finish. I am curious to what this would look like with a clear coat. I may try that in the future, but it looked so wonderful with just an oil and wax finish. That's kind of what I stuck with. We're going to go ahead and do one more wand, I think, in this video, and see if we can't just kind of burn through a quick one real quick, and we'll get that started. And if you're liking these videos, it really does help if you'll slide right down there and hit that thumbs up button. And that definitely helps me out, helps the channel out a bit. It's free, it's easy to do, and it only takes a second. If you do want to see some future videos, you can also subscribe by going down and hitting that bell icon down there. And that way you'll get notified anytime that I've got new videos coming up. So, as you can see on this one, I've already skipped the part where I did the shaft of the wand, and I'm already marking out the handle so I can kind of get an idea of some general areas that I want to put my design work. And I've kind of divided off this center section because I'm going to do a little bit different design that I have in mind for this. So we'll kind of do some shaping on this, and then we'll kind of skip through and get to the next part. And while you're watching the shaping that I'm doing in here, I do want to mention that if you'd like to join the channel and be a member supporter, you can join for as little as $1 a month. And if we can get enough members, then we're going to do some perks. We do have some perks already, but I'm actually hoping to be able to do some wand giveaways in the future if we can get enough people. And there are some different levels there, but I have a Discord set up already. It's once we get some members and stuff, I'll open that up for everybody to join, and you can have direct access. I'm looking at upgrading my internet in the future, and I may be able to do some live streams and stuff, and we can do some Q&A here in the next few months. So yeah, anyways, slide down, do the join down there, and for as little as $1 a month, you can be a member supporter, and that's going to help I get new woods, get some more better video equipment, and then you'll get some perks, and that's very much appreciated too. So anyways, you can see I've already got the shaping and stuff done. We kind of got this sanded up to about a 300, and again, we're fighting this, trying to get the wire friction burn in there, as well as I am going to do the ebonizing solution on this. So I'm putting those friction burns in there, and as you can see, it's a real fight. And there was actually another wood that was even worse than this, and we'll get to the Bacote in a future video. So that's one of the ones coming up. I do want to mention I did get my hands on some Gaboon ebony, that crazy expensive black, really awesome wood. So stay tuned for that as well. So anyways, as you can see, I've got it sanded down, same as the last one, to around a 600 grit. We're going to go in, throw on that ebonizing solution, and let that dry. Then we're going to clean that up with the sanding all the way up to a 2000 grit. On this again, it'll polishes up so nicely, and you can kind of see generally how that's going to work. I'm going to go put a taper on it, get the oil on it, and then here is the final photo of this. And this really, again, Tigerwood, you can see that grain. It's just a very rich color once I got the proper lighting and stuff on this, and I really enjoyed that. I do have one more Tigerwood wand coming up. I think I'm going to make a separate video of that. It is a special edition where I did some wood burning on that, so we're going to do a separate video here shortly. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and like I said, in addition to the Tigerwood coming up, I've got 7 other woods, including holly and ebony. So do the subscription thing so that you get a notification, and keep an eye out for those upcoming videos. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.